If you need to remove the hard drive from a laptop, whether you're replacing an old drive, upgrading to an SSD, recovering data, or simply taking the drive out for another reason, the process is usually straightforward once you know where the storage drive is located. The exact procedure is different for every laptop model though, so don't assume that one laptop opens exactly like another. Some laptops have a traditional 2.5-inch hard drive. Some use an M.2 SSD, and some modern laptops have storage that is difficult or impossible for the average user to replace. In this video, I'll explain the general process and the important safety checks you should make before removing anything. Before you touch the laptop, there's one very important question. Is the drive you want to remove the drive that contains Windows and your personal files? If it is, make sure you have a backup before taking it out. Removing the internal system drive can prevent the laptop from starting normally because the operating system is stored on that drive. If you have important photos, documents, videos, or other files, copy them to another drive or a trusted backup location first. Microsoft also recommends using external storage when you need to keep files while freeing space or moving data between drives. Once your important data is backed up, shut the laptop down completely. Don't simply close the lid or put the laptop into sleep mode. Use the normal shut down option in Windows and wait until the laptop is completely powered off. Then, disconnect the AC adapter and remove any other connected accessories, such as USB drives, memory cards, headphones, or external monitors. You want the laptop completely disconnected before opening the chassis. The next part is locating the storage drive. Turn the laptop over and place it on a clean, flat surface. Ideally, use a table rather than a bed or carpet because you want good visibility and a stable work area. Look at the bottom panel and identify the screws holding the cover in place. Some laptops have a single removable bottom panel, while others have separate service covers. Some models also use captive screws, which remain attached to the bottom cover after you loosen them. Before removing screws, find the service manual or hardware guide for your exact laptop model, if possible. This is one of the most important things you can do because manufacturers use very different internal layouts. For example, Microsoft's own current self-repair documentation shows that some Surface laptop models have removable SSDs, while other models and components have different service procedures. Your laptop may have a removable drive, but the location and access method depend on the model. Use the correct screwdriver for the screws on your laptop. Don't force a screwdriver that doesn't fit properly, because stripping a small laptop screw can make the repair much more difficult. Keep the screws organized as you remove them. If several screws have different lengths, make a note of where each one came from. Taking a quick photo of the bottom before removing anything can also help you remember the original screw positions. After removing or loosening the bottom cover screws, carefully separate the cover from the laptop. Some covers lift away easily, while others are held by plastic clips. If the cover doesn't come off with gentle pressure, stop and check for another screw. Don't aggressively pry around the edge because the plastic clips or the cover itself can break. If your laptop has a manufacturer-specific opening procedure, follow that procedure instead of forcing the panel. Once the bottom cover is off, locate the battery first. This is important because you don't want to work around an energized internal system if you can safely disconnect the battery. Depending on the laptop, the battery may be a large flat pack covering part of the motherboard, or it may be removable in another way. If the manufacturer's service instructions specify disconnecting the battery before removing the drive, follow those instructions carefully. Now, look for the storage device. If the laptop has a traditional 2.5-inch SATA hard drive, it will usually look like a small rectangular metal drive inside a mounting bracket or caddy. You may see a SATA connector attached to one side. The drive is normally secured with screws or a mounting frame. If it has an M.2 SSE instead, it will look like a small circuit board, often with one screw near the end holding it flat against the motherboard. An M.2 SSD is very different from a traditional 2.5-inch hard drive, so make sure you identify the correct component before touching it. If you're removing a traditional 2.5-inch drive, First, remove the screws holding the drive or its caddy in place. Don't pull directly on the cable. If there's a SATA connector or cable attached, disconnect it carefully from the drive or motherboard according to the laptop's design. Some laptops use a removable connector or interposer rather than a standard desktop-style cable. Once the connector is disconnected, lift the drive and its bracket out of the laptop. If your laptop uses an M.2 SSD, locate the small retaining screw at the end of the drive. Remove that screw while holding the SSD gently so it doesn't spring upward unexpectedly. Once the screw is removed, the SSD will usually rise slightly at an angle. Carefully slide the SSD out of its connector rather than pulling it straight upward. Hold it by the edges and avoid touching the exposed contacts on the connector. At this point, the drive should be physically removed. If your goal is to replace it, compare the new drive with the old one before installation. Make sure the connector type, physical size, and mounting method are compatible with your laptop. A 2.5-inch SATA SSD is not interchangeable with an M.2 NVMe SSD, simply because both are called SSDs. The laptop has to support the specific drive type. If you're removing the drive because you want to sell, recycle, or dispose of the laptop, pay special attention to your data. Simply deleting files is not necessarily the same as securely erasing the entire storage device. If the drive contains sensitive information, plan the data erasure process before handing the drive to someone else. If the drive is still readable and you need to preserve the information, make a backup before attempting any erase operation. If you're removing a drive because Windows is no longer working, don't assume the drive itself is necessarily dead. You may be able to connect the removed drive to another computer using an appropriate USB enclosure or adapter depending on the drive type. A 2.5-inch SATA drive can commonly be connected using a SATA to USB enclosure or adapter. An M.2 SSD requires an enclosure or adapter that supports its specific interface, such as SATA or NVMe. Choosing the wrong enclosure can make a healthy drive appear to be incompatible. There's another important point if you're planning to boot the laptop after removing the drive. If the removed drive was the only drive containing Windows, the laptop may display a message such as "No bootable device," or "Operating system not found," or another startup error. That doesn't necessarily mean you damaged the laptop. It can simply mean that the computer no longer has an operating system to boot from. If you are installing a replacement drive, you will need to install or restore an operating system on the new drive. If the laptop has two storage devices, be especially careful about identifying which one you are removing. Don't assume that the largest drive is the system drive. Before opening the laptop, you can use Windows Disk Management to identify the drives and their partitions. You can also open Settings and check Storage to understand how storage is being used. Microsoft provides Windows storage tools for checking drive usage and managing available space. When working inside the laptop, avoid touching other components unnecessarily. Keep liquids away from the work area, don't use excessive force, and don't place metal objects across the motherboard. If you have an anti-static wrist strap, using one according to its instructions can help reduce electrostatic discharge risk. At a minimum, work on a suitable non-carpeted surface and handle components by their edges. When you're finished, reinstall the replacement drive if you have one, reconnect any battery connector that you disconnected, and make sure no cables are trapped under the bottom cover. Carefully reinstall the cover and tighten the screws without over-tightening them. If you removed screws of different lengths, make sure each one goes back into its original location. After closing the laptop, connect the charger and power it on. If you install the blank replacement drive, the laptop may not boot into Windows until an operating system is installed. If you install the drive that already contains a working Windows installation and the laptop supports it, the system may boot normally. If it doesn't, check the BIOS or UEFI settings to confirm that the new drive is detected and that the correct boot device is selected. If the laptop doesn't recognize the new drive at all, turn the computer off again and check the physical connection. For an M.2 SSD, make sure it is fully inserted into the connector before being secured with the retaining screw. For a SATA drive, check that the connector or cable is seated correctly. Also confirm that the new drive is compatible with your laptop model. If the drive is still not detected, check the manufacturer's documentation for supported storage types and BIOS or UEFI requirements. One more thing, some laptops are not designed for easy user-accessible storage replacement. Certain models have storage soldered directly to the motherboard, while others require extensive disassembly to reach the drive. If your laptop doesn't have a conventional removable drive, don't try to force a component off the motherboard. You could permanently damage the computer. In that situation, use the manufacturer's service documentation or have the work performed by a qualified technician. So the basic process is simple. Back up your data, shut the laptop down completely, disconnect the charger and accessories, open the bottom cover using the correct procedure for your model, disconnect the battery if the service instructions call for it, identify the correct storage drive, remove its retaining screws or bracket, disconnect the drive carefully, and then lift or slide it out according to its type. For a 2.5-inch drive, you'll normally be dealing with a bracket and SATA connection. For an M.2 SSD, you'll normally remove one retaining screw and slide the drive out of its connector at an angle. And remember, the exact procedure is model-specific. The safest approach is to search for the service manual for your exact laptop model before opening it. That manual can show the location of the drive, the correct screw positions, whether the battery should be disconnected, and whether the storage device is actually replaceable. If this video helped you remove the hard drive from your laptop, give it a quick like and subscribe for more computer repair and upgrade tutorials. And if you're not sure where the hard drive or SSD is located in your laptop, leave the exact laptop brand and model in the comments. That way you can identify the correct storage device before opening the machine.